It's kind of like holding its own, which I'm not mad about. But let's see if we can get it to full coverage. That is weird to me, but we're gonna keep an eye on it. That is a super pigmented blush. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, then welcome. My name is Kristina, and on my channel we talk all things beauty from my own experiences. So before you go, make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave any comments that you have for me down below. So in this video, we are gonna be testing this new product out. This is the E.L.F Camo Hydrating CC Cream. And we're also going to be swatching and covering these brand new E.L.F liquid blushes. All right, so let's look at the specs on this product right here. It retails for $15. I got mine on E.L.F's website, and I believe it's coming to Ulta if it's not already on Ulta's website and in stores. They cover fair light, medium tan, deep and rich shades, and they also have the cool, neutral, and warm undertones, but they do not have olive or peach undertones, so keep that in mind if you are a true peach or like a true olive. It says that this is a full coverage color correcting foundation with SPF 30 that helps hydrate the skin and give it a dewy finish. It also says it plumps the skin's appearance, and it's great for dry, oily, and combination skin. Basically, it's saying that it's good for all skin types. And as you guys know, I have more oily combination skin. So to test this out today in our demo, I am going to go in with just the Camo Hydrating CC Cream on this side of my face. This is the Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. I went ahead and applied it on this side of the face so it can dry down a little before we go in with the CC cream. So we're gonna go in on the left side of the face right here, and to begin, I think I'm just going to put a little bit on my finger. Oh, that's kind of a lot. Oh, that looks like it's going to be a good match actually. So let's go ahead and put that on the face. So right off the bat, this seems like a very creamy texture. It's a little bit thicker than what I thought it was going to be by just the name hydrating, you know. I thought it was going to be very runny. It's kind of like holding its own, which I'm not mad about. I don't like to put a ton on my forehead because usually it is a lot darker than the foundation I put on the rest of my face. But this is what it's looking like. Just blend it out with the finger. Honestly, that's a pretty high coverage. Is it full? I don't know, but it's high. I'm just gonna take this Morphe E63 brush, blend it out completely onto the face and down the neck. Okay, here's what the CC cream is looking like on the left side of my face. This is about the amount that I would wear on a regular basis. I think that this would be considered one layer for me. I would say that this is a high coverage. However, I wouldn't say with just this one layer it's full coverage, because I can still definitely see my sunspots and my freckles and stuff right here. I don't have any active breakouts, so I can't really tell you what it looks like if you're breaking out or anything. My pores look pretty good. I will say that it definitely does seem more dewy than what I remember the CC cream, the other CC cream being like. It has been quite a while since I've used that one. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but the skin looks nice and healthy. I still think that my skin looks like skin. The most that I see the CC cream doing for me that's noticeable is just evening out my skin tone. I do think that it covered a lot of my freckling right here in the center of my face, but definitely can still see it here. I can still see like my moles, and I have a little bit of acne scarring on my cheek that I think is still a little bit prominent. I would say this is a medium to full coverage, you know, like right in the middle. But with that being said, let's see if we can get it to full coverage. So I'm gonna take probably like another half pump, maybe not even, just a little bit more right here, and I'm going to focus it right on my cheek, right in this area, to see if we can further cover all of those imperfections. And typically I would rely on my concealer to finish covering up the things that I don't want being seen, but since we're trying to test out the coverage of this specific product, that's why I'm kind of, you know, pushing this one to do its job. It definitely covers all that stuff, but we'll see what it looks like once it's fully blended. I think it's also covering the redness around my nose pretty well, so now I'm going to blend. I almost feel like this is slightly oxidizing on my face. I feel like it's a little darker than what it started off as. Okay, here's what it's looking like. Definitely think that it added a little bit of coverage, but I almost feel like it looks a little heavy now, and I can still see that area. But again, I don't know if there's any foundation that fully covers this really stubborn sunspot that's kind of just like always there, which is one of the most annoying sunspots on my face. You can definitely see that it's covered the majority of my imperfections on this side of my face. I definitely think that it looks a lot more dewy with that second layer. So if you're not the type of person that likes a very hydrated, dewy looking complexion, we'll see what it looks like once it's powdered. Maybe that'll kind of change things. Maybe it'll give you a better idea of what this looks like, but here is what we're working with. Now let's go in on this side. And again, this side, we do have that putty primer applied. So we're going to do the same exact thing, probably go in with the same amount of product as well. All right, so here is the one layer applied with that putty primer underneath. I think it's acting pretty much the same way that it did on this side with one layer. It covers most of my imperfections, but again, I can still definitely see my freckling and acne scarring on the top of my cheek right here, and I have a little bit down here on my chin that you can still see. Like we did on this side, we're gonna go in with like half of another layer just to cover up those imperfections that I don't want to be showing through as much. So just tapping it in just like we did earlier, and then we're gonna blend it out with our brush. It actually blends out really nicely too. I think the added hydration in it definitely helps it to move a little better on top of the face, so you can easily blend it out without it getting streaky or anything. And sometimes with a brush it can kind of like get streaky with certain foundations, but I find that those that are a little bit more dewy, the ones that have a little bit more of a hydrating content in it, definitely move better on the face, and this is no exception. Okay, so this is full application, and I want to say the side with the primer, I think my pores right here are slightly more perfected. It's barely even noticeable though, but as I'm like turning my head and stuff, I feel like my pores are just a little bit more subtle on the right side of my face. It's nothing to write home about. I think we're really going to see that primer shine throughout the day though, if it does make a difference or if it doesn't. So now we're gonna go in with concealer and bronzer probably before we go in with blush. I think I'll also go ahead and do my eyeshadow, and then I'll be back so we can try out that blush. And just so you know, I am using my E.L.F. Hydrating Camo Concealer in the shade Medium Sand today. Hopefully this one still matches me currently, because I think this is a little bit darker, but we will see. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going in with any other color corrector because this CC cream does say it's a color corrector. So I don't really want to mess with too much of the complexion because we are putting this to the test, you know? Typically, I would go in with something like my Bobbi Brown color corrector to cover my acne scarring and stuff like that, but we're just gonna leave it be today and just see how this fares. Okay guys, I'm back. I went ahead and did my eyeshadow and some bronzer, and I did powder just this bottom half of my face. The rest of my face is untouched with powder because I want to go in with the liquid blush. So I did buy 4 of the shades as well as this brand new liquid blush brush. It's definitely a denser brush. It's slightly tapered, like you can barely tell how tapered it is, but it's still a very soft, really nice quality brush. It kind of reminds me of the BK Beauty 101 brush, but a little bit smaller. I've been trying to get my hands on the 109 brush, guys, and I thought I ordered it from the TikTok shop, but I actually ordered another 101 brush. I was like, dang it. So this kind of reminds me of like the in-between of that. So the shades that I purchased, I have the shade Pinky Promise, Coral Crush, Dusty Rose, and Suave Mauve. So these all retail for $7. They're ultra pigmented, long-lasting liquid blushes that also have a dewy finish. So they really seem like they're going to be like a lot of different liquid blushes that are in this container that are on the market right now. I'm gonna do these two, but I'm gonna do sort of like an ombre look. So I'm gonna take Dusty Rose, no scent to them. It's almost like a ball tip applicator, like it's a doe foot and it's slightly angled, but it almost just kind of looks like a ball the way that the product is kind of pooling on top of it. Do you see that? That's so interesting. Let's do a little swatch here. So that's Dusty Rose, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and go in with that liquid blush brush and take some from that swatch. Oh, that's so pretty. Oh my gosh, you can already see how dewy it is. And we're just going to use what's on the brush here and kind of go towards the center of the face, but not quite. Lovely pigment. I like that. And like I said, I think the density of this brush is really nice for high pigment because the density isn't going to kind of like fan out all of the product onto the face. So it's definitely more concentrated exactly where you put it, you know? But the brush is still really movable, so I'm able to blend this out pretty effortlessly. This is a surprisingly really workable blush. I don't want to say surprising, but when I see high pigment, I kind of associate that with more blending, you know? I'm taking it pretty far in, farther than I anticipated, but that's okay. And we're going to bring it down to kind of connect with that bronzer that we have. That is an absolutely gorgeous flush of color, and I still have a little bit of pigment, a little bit of product right here on the back of my hand that I could use, but I didn't. So that is a super pigmented blush, and very, very pleased with how easy that is to blend. So now let's go in with a Suave Mauve, and I'm gonna go in with even less. This looks like an insanely pretty color. I want to put this on my lips and my eyelids and my cheeks, like literally everywhere. I'm just going to use that same brush. I'm just going to wipe it off a little bit. And I'm literally going to go right here where we ended that first blush and go up on the temples and sort of like blend it in the outside perimeters of my face. Like we want it to look like one blush that has multiple dimensions to it. Those go together so well. I almost can't even tell the difference. I'm gonna go in with a little more because that actually didn't seem like enough. So just doing a little dot on top of that. Here you go. Definitely a lot of blush. So here are those two blushes together. I really, really like this outcome. I think that it looks so pretty. A big test for high pigment blushes is powdering. Whenever I powder my face, I definitely do lose a lot of that intensity when it comes to blushes. So let's see how much of this like stays true and how much of it we can see through our powder. For powder today, I'm going to be using my favorite Uoma Beauty Trippin Smooth Setting Powder. This is a translucent shade. And I may also go in with a little bit of my Huda Beauty Banana Bright Loose Setting Powder just to kind of like brighten the under eyes, you know? I'm gonna take a bit of this and my BK and Nikki LaRose brush. This is the N14 brush, and I'm going to use this to pack it under the eyes, and I'm really going to pack it in there and then blend it out later. This brush is great for getting powder right in the corners of your eyes. Like, it fits perfectly. And this is the step where I'm going to be powdering the rest of my face. So I'm going to take a lot of powder under my eyes, around my nose, and on my forehead. You can definitely see that dewy finish on the blushes. However, we're most likely going to lose a lot of that dewiness once we powder, because I do powder my face whenever I do my makeup because I want my makeup to last. I'm going to try not to powder too much on top of the entire perimeter of the blush though. Typically I would powder it completely down because usually I'll set it with like a powder blush, but today I'm just gonna let the liquid blush do its thing. I have a bit of patching right here. I don't know what's going on. I did use bronzer like I said, and then I powdered with my Huda powder earlier, just the bottom half of my face, but I see a little bit of a skin like dry patch right here. And I've used this powder and that same bronzer, which is the bronzer in this Kaja Play Bento. Like I've used these together plenty of times, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. I'm wondering if it's just like mixing funny with the CC cream. But yeah, I'll try to give you guys a little bit of a close-up of that. You can barely see it, and I'm sure after a couple of hours it's kind of gonna like fade away because my oils do come through and sort of like melt any powder that's on my face together. I kind of want to blend out this bronzer a little bit more. I'm thinking that maybe like I do need to blend that because I see like a weird streak right there. As you can see, I did powder my entire face. However, nothing is looking too crazy matte. I feel like I can still see a little bit of shine, a little bit of dew peeking through, which is really nice. I'm also debating on if I should add a little bit more blush. Surprisingly, I can still see the blush peeking through. I tried my best not to powder the entire area of the blush. Like right here, I kind of like didn't touch. But if you like a lot of blush, I think that you could probably go in and add a little bit more. Now that I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and do that because I want to see how this applies with a little bit of powder on top of the face. So I'm going to just add a little bit more of that dusty rosé shade, and I just took a little bit of product here and I'm going to dot it on both sides of the face and see how this reacts with the powder. It should be fine though because both of these are silicone based, so I think that it's just going to sit right on top really nicely. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Looks great. didn't lose any coverage. I think that everything is still sitting really nicely, and the powder didn't break up underneath that blush, so really happy with that. I did actually pick up some of the E.L.F. lip liners. I had been meaning to pick these up, so I went ahead and added them to my order. Let's swatch all of these to see what they look like. So this first one, no way, are there no color names on these? Sometimes E.L.F. does that and I don't understand why. Like, why don't you put the names of the shades? No, I have no idea which one's which, and I went ahead and threw away the packaging for each one. I have them here, but how am I gonna match it up? That's annoying. All right, here are all of the shades that I picked up. I'm just gonna hold them in order of how I swatched them since I don't know the names of them. I'm leaning towards the second or the third one today for my lip combo. I think I'm gonna go with the second one, which is going to be this shade right here. It actually is very creamy. It's a little bit more on the dry side if I'm comparing it to like the Makeup by Mario lip liners. However, it may last longer on the lips because they are slightly drier. And this color is nice. It adds a little bit of color, but it's mainly like a contour shade on me. Guys, I did give in and I bought this Westman Atelier Squeaky Clean Lip Balm in the shade Garconne. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. The finish on this thing, oh my gosh, they are expensive, but just look at this. So nice. Okay, here's what the entire face is looking like now. So I am seeing a little bit of separation right under my lip, which is interesting. I powdered there, I used concealer, I used that CC cream. So everything complexion wise is pretty much on there. So I don't know what's causing it, as well as like this little dry spot right here. That is weird to me, but we're gonna keep an eye on it. As I said, I don't really want to touch it because I have a feeling that if I blend it out, it's going to really separate. I guess we're just gonna have to like hang out with it looking like that, which kind of sucks. Oh, it actually looks so bad the more I look at it. My face wasn't dry or anything to begin with. It could definitely be the Huda Beauty powder because I only put that again right down here, and that's the only areas that I'm seeing like this separation with the powder and the rest of the complexion products. So I have a feeling that maybe it is that, because I'm really trying to look right here as well, and I'm seeing it looks a little bit more separated between the powder and the liquids. Give this makeup a fighting chance. I'm gonna use the One Size setting spray. First impressions, I think that this went on really nicely. It's still definitely a thicker consistency, which I remember the other E.L.F. Camo CC Cream, the original, being very thick, so it still feels pretty thick, but I think what makes it different is that this one seems to blend out a lot nicer because, again, the moisture content and the moisture levels in this one seem to be higher, so it blends out a lot nicer. It doesn't completely dry down. You definitely are left with a dewy finish, as it says. For me, I would say this is a medium to full coverage. You can definitely build it up to full. However, I think that I finished off the majority of my full coverage with that E.L.F. Hydrating Camo Concealer. As far as the liquid blushes go, highly impressed by this. I really love the pigmentation of these, and I think that the finish of them being dewy also helps, again, kind of blend out and diffuse the product into the face. I think that it was very nice to apply. I am loving the way that this liquid blush is sitting on the face. They're only $7, which seems like a steal, especially for liquid blushes. So here is our baseline. This is what we're working with. This is how the face is starting off. It is currently 1:30 in the afternoon. Jed and I have a couple of errands to run today, and then later tonight we are going to be hanging out with some friends that are in town for the holidays. So it's going to be a pretty busy day, but I'm going to make sure that I check in with you guys and let you know like what's going on the face, especially because we're starting off a little bit questionable down in this area. We'll see how this goes. So it's 5 o'clock right now. It's been about 4 hours since we've applied this face of makeup. So this area right here that I was concerned about earlier, it still pretty much looks the same. It hasn't really changed at all. But this right here pretty much, like, I want to say has disappeared. Like, it looks a little splotchy, but the actual separation of the powder and the foundation, I'm not really noticing it as much. It really is just under the lip right here. Everywhere else seems to be doing really well. I don't know if the blush is fading. I kind of feel like it is fading a little bit, but it's honestly not terrible, especially because I didn't powder it down. I have Judd here with me.
Turn your head that way a little bit. This way. This one kind of shows your pores a bit more than this side.
Really? Okay, so Jed said this side looks smoother than this side. And this side we have the primer on. And this side we don't. Do I look the same amount of oily on both sides? Do I look oily?
You don't really look oily, but if I shine a light, then your left side.
Okay, so the primer is keeping my oils at bay on this side at least. So we're gonna keep track of it and see how the rest of this wear test goes. Hi guys, I'm back. It is about 12:30 a.m. So we've officially had this face of makeup on for 11 hours. I was thinking of just like prolonging it and going to 12 hours. But honestly, it's late. I'm tired. I want to take this face of makeup off. And I feel like it's not really going to make that big of a difference on that last hour. So let's look at the face. Overall, the face is looking more dewy. However, I'm kind of surprised by how little dew, like little oil we have going on, especially for a product that does claim to be a hydrating formulation. I feel like this actually held its own pretty well. Just a refresher, this side we just have the hydrating CC cream, and on my right side we have the putty primer as well as the CC cream on top of it. I'm looking at it now, like in my little mirror thing. Honestly, they both look pretty equally accentuated here. So I don't think that a primer, at least the poreless putty primer, it doesn't make a huge difference in terms of the wear of this. Like it looks pretty much the same. My trouble area, which was right under my lips, still looks pretty separated. I mean, my oils throughout the day didn't really decrease the way that looks on the face. If anything, it kind of got slightly worse. Like you can kind of see where the product is really pulling up, which is so weird. And I definitely think it's because of this powder, because that is the only place that I'm seeing it. This area right here, as well as slightly on my cheek, but not as much and not as noticeable as on my chin. We do have a lot of separation around my nose, like right under my nose here in the creases. You definitely can see that CC cream kind of like pulling away from the nose. And also, if I do touch my face, you can see a little bit of demarcation wherever I touch it. Like I moved my hair earlier and I can see a little bit of demarcation right there on my temple. First, let's talk about my overall thoughts on the CC cream before we get into the liquid blush. I definitely think it's going to be geared more towards those with dry to normal skin type, someone that doesn't necessarily have to powder their entire face. I would say if you're oily, you can still wear this. It's still going to look really nice. Even though you powder, maybe you kind of just have to play around with which powder you use with this CC cream. I'm sure that there are some powders that will work with this to make it look flawless on the skin, but I think that for less of a fuss, if you don't have to powder, I think that is the best way to go with this one. As far as coverage, I do really like the coverage. I like the way that this looked on the skin when I initially applied it. Like I felt like it just looked like really healthy skin, and it evened out my complexion almost perfectly. You could definitely still see a little bit of my imperfections and my scarring and stuff underneath this, but I honestly feel like that kind of helped make this CC cream look a little bit more natural. I like the fact that it has sunscreen. However, for me, I always wear a separate sunscreen underneath my foundation. Okay, next are these liquid blushes. Overall, for the liquid blushes, as you can see, it's still staying pretty strong on the cheeks. You can still definitely see everywhere that I applied the liquid blush, and there's really not much transfer. I was very mindful, and I typically am when I'm wearing makeup, to not like touch and rub on my face, so that could definitely be playing a role in this. And like I had said earlier, I only powdered the like perimeter of the blush. I didn't powder the entire area of the blush, and I'm very pleasantly surprised with how this stayed all day. I definitely think that this lasting power is amazing. I mean, we're talking 11 hours of just true color, even through my oils coming through, even with like going out and about in the humidity and stuff. My blush still looks really, really nice, and I really enjoy the two colors that I tried out. I am definitely more interested in picking up like the berry tone and the more like deep, bold shades. I think for $7, they are totally worth trying out and seeing if they work for you. So would I recommend this? I think that if you're looking specifically for something with hydration, this would be really nice. Is it going to be life-changing? I don't think so. Not really for me personally, but will I be reaching for this one more than I will with the original CC cream? Yes, most likely. It's not a bad product by any means, but I'm just really turned off with how it like separated on the skin. So I'm definitely gonna have to play around with that. I do like the finish of this once it's powdered down with my Uoma powder. And I think this also helped with my oil production throughout the day. I definitely think that I could have gotten more oily, but this did not accentuate that or make it worse. All right, guys, that is everything for this video. I hope that it was helpful for you. I hope you found it informative. If you have any additional questions for me or any comments about my review, leave them in the comments down below. And before you go, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe for more of these videos, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.